You know Dr. Pepper, right? That 23-flavor drink sitting in every gas station, every grocery store, every vending machine in America. Well, it was invented in 1885 by a pharmacist named Charles Alderton at Morrison's Old Corner Drugstore in Waco, Texas, before Coca-Cola was even sold to the public. Texas didn't just give the world cowboys and oil. It gave the world some of the most used, most recognized inventions on the planet. And that's just number one. By the end of this video, you'll never look at the Lone Star State the same way. Let's start with what you're probably using right now. The phone in your hand, or at least the chip inside it, was invented in a Dallas lab. In 1958, a Texas Instruments engineer named Jack Kilby had a problem to solve. Circuits were getting too complex to wire by hand. And engineers called it the tyranny of numbers. Too many components, too many connections, too many ways for everything to fail. Kilby's solution was to etch an entire circuit onto a single piece of germanium, one chip, everything on it. But here's the twist. He only came up with the idea because he was too new at TI to take summer vacation. Everyone else went home. Kilby stayed. And in that empty lab in Dallas, he sketched out the invention that runs every electronic device on Earth. He won the Nobel Prize in Physics for it in 2000, 42 years later. Not bad for a guy who couldn't take vacation. And that same Dallas lab invented something else you use every single day. But we'll get to that later. You've seen a Dell, right? Maybe you're on one right now. In 1984, a 19-year-old named Michael Dell started a computer company in his University of Texas dorm room in Austin with $1,000. His breakthrough wasn't the hardware, it was the business model. He sold directly to consumers, cutting out retailers entirely. Nobody had done that with personal computers. He dropped out of UT the following semester. His parents were not thrilled. Today, Dell Technologies is a $92 billion company and one of the largest tech employers in the world. Not bad for a dorm room in Austin. Fritos. You've eaten them at every cookout, every tailgate, every road trip your whole life. In 1932, a man named Charles Elmer Doolin bought a corn chip recipe from a San Antonio street vendor for $100. He made the first batches in his mother's kitchen and sold bags from his car. That $100 recipe eventually connected him to Herman Lay. And together they founded Frito-Lay, now a division of PepsiCo generating over $18 billion in annual revenue, all from a $100 street purchase in San Antonio. But let's talk about the brands you see on every corner. If you've ever been to Texas, you know Whataburger isn't just a fast food restaurant, it's a way of life. In 1950, Harmon Dobson opened a single roadside stand in Corpus Christi, Texas, with one specific goal: to make a burger so big that customers would take a bite and say, "What a burger." On his first day, he sold 551 burgers at 25 cents each. What a Burger struggled for decades to expand outside of Texas. But that struggle became the identity. Texas kept it, claimed it, made it sacred. Today there are 950-plus locations and $2.4 billion in annual sales. Not bad for a roadside stand in Corpus Christi. But every time you fill up at an Exxon or Mobil station, you're tracing back to a single field in southeast Texas. On January 10, 1901, an oil well at Spindletop near Beaumont blew. And when it did, it produced more oil than every other well in the United States combined. The man who pushed for that well for years, who told anyone who would listen that oil was down there, was Patio Higgins, a one-armed brick salesman with zero geology training. Everyone laughed at him. Geologists said the land was worthless. He kept pushing. The Spindletop gusher launched the Texas oil industry and eventually became the foundation of what is now ExxonMobil, for decades the largest publicly traded company on Earth. All because a brick salesman refused to be wrong. Some of Texas's biggest inventions, though, nobody meant to invent them at all. But every frozen drink machine at every chain restaurant in America, Applebee's, Chili's, every beachside bar you've ever sat at, traces back to one bad night in Dallas. In 1971, a restaurateur named Mariano Martinez was running Mariano's Mexican cuisine and had a problem. His bar staff couldn't make consistent margaritas fast enough on busy nights. Quality was all over the place. The inspiration hit him at 3 a.m. He walked into a 7-Eleven, stared at the Slurpee machine, and realized he could do the exact same thing with margaritas. He modified a soft-serve ice cream machine, dialed in the recipe, and on May 11, 1971, the world's first frozen margarita machine debuted. Today, the original machine sits in the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. The frozen drink machine is now a billion-dollar segment of the restaurant equipment industry. Not bad for a 3 a.m. trip to 7-Eleven. Fajitas are on every Tex-Mex menu in the world. You'd think they've been around forever, passed down through generations with a clear, clean origin story. The truth is more complicated and more Texas. Ranch workers along the Rio Grande Valley in the 1930s were often paid partly in meat. They got the cuts nobody else wanted. The skirt steak, tough and cheap. They grilled it over open fire and wrapped it in tortillas out of pure necessity. The dish existed in South Texas for decades before it had a name. The man often credited with commercializing it is Sonny Falcon, known as the Fajita King, who served them publicly at a 1969 festival in Kyle, Texas. Meant the first restaurant to put them on a menu was Ninfa's in Houston in 1973. The exact inventor is genuinely disputed, but the origin is not. Fajitas came from Texas, and now they're everywhere. Those change dinner tables, but these next ones changed the entire world. Before April 4th, 1969, if your heart failed, you died. There was no machine, no device, no bridge to keep you alive while waiting for a donor. That changed at the Texas Heart Institute in Houston, when Dr. Denton Cooley implanted the world's first total artificial heart into a patient named Haskell Karp. The device kept Karp alive for 64 hours until a donor heart was found. Cooley had also performed the first successful heart transplant in the United States. The research pipeline he built in Houston directly led to today's ventricular assist devices. Mechanical hearts keeping tens of thousands of people alive right now. Today, 6 million Americans live with heart failure, and mechanical heart technology is a multi-billion-dollar field. Not bad for a hospital in Houston. Every moon landing, every Mars rover, every Houston, we have a problem. All of it was, and still is, controlled from Texas. In 1961, NASA established the Johnson Space Center in Houston, and it became the nerve center for every crewed mission in American history. The first words ever spoken from the surface of the moon were directed at Houston. JSC pioneered mission control systems, spacesuit design, and orbital mechanics software that's still in use today. BINET now employs over 10,000 people and oversees more than 100 active space missions. The entire U.S. commercial space industry grew from the foundation built there. And now the ones that'll genuinely surprise you, because you'd never guess Texas was involved. Corn dogs. You think they're just generic fair food, something that's always existed, invented by nobody, belonging to everywhere. They were invented in Texas, at the State Fair of Texas, in 1942. Neil Fletcher debuted the first deep-fried hot dog on a stick in America at the Dallas Fairground, and his family still sells the original recipe at the same fair more than 80 years later. The State Fair of Texas is the largest state fair in America, and the corn dog is its unofficial mascot. And you thought it was just a carnival thing. Remember Jack Kilby, the guy who invented the microchip in that empty Dallas lab in 1958? In 1967, he was still at Texas Instruments, still in Dallas, and he did it again. Kilby, along with colleagues Jerry Merriman and James Van Tassel, built the first handheld electronic calculator. Before this, calculators were the size of desks. This one ran on a small battery and fit in a pocket. Nobody had ever done that. TI held back on commercializing it, licensed the patent out, and HP and Casio took the early market. TI finally launched its own calculator line in 1972. Same guy, same lab. Two of the most consequential inventions of the 20th century. Not bad for Dallas, Texas. So there you have it. Remember Dr. Pepper, invented before Coca-Cola was even sold to the public? That was just the beginning. The microchip, the artificial heart. That's the frozen margarita machine. NASA Mission Control, the handheld calculator. From a pharmacist's lunch counter in Waco to the nerve center of every NASA moon mission, Texas didn't just produce cowboys and oil. It produced the foundations of modern technology, medicine, and fast food culture. Next time you open your laptop, eat a corn dog or sip a frozen drink, you'll know exactly where it came from. Which invention surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. And if you're from Texas, what did I miss?